Okay, we are live. Welcome to the Wildes cast. Thank you all for joining. I have the great honor of introducing Kosher Dillz, whose real name is Rami. Rami, what's your last name?
Evanesh.
Evanesh. It's a
Rami
pleasure.
Evanesh. Yeah. Nice to
So, so Rami, or Kosher Dillz, as many of you know him as, is a Brooklyn-based rapper. And I think this is the first podcast I've ever had a rapper on. This is an honor. And a rapper who has performed already at MJE. And he's been channeling his Jewish identity through rap for the last 15 years. Kosher Dillz, or Rami, is a Billboard charting artist. He has shared stages and festivals with everyone from Macklemore and Matisyahu to Kendrick Lamar to rap battles with the late DMX. A large part of Rami's focus is enhancing the pride of Jewish identity, which I absolutely love, and Israel in pop culture through what he calls user-friendly music. His most recent viral videos come from performing as Moses, which is a great video if you guys want to check that out, for his song Big Matzah in New York City, which amassed him over 1 million views in the last couple of weeks, as well as being featured on TMZ, World Star, and Complex. His latest album, Nobody Cares Except You, is available on all streaming sites. He also has a TEDx called Freestyle Rap Saved My Life, which speaks about the power of freestyle and his experience as a recovering addict for 16 and a half years. That's incredible. So Rami, I want to get a little background. Tell us a little about your background, where you come from, what inspired you to become a Jewish rapper.
One, thanks for having me on a show. My background is Edison, New Jersey, born to 2 Israeli parents, 2 Israeli brothers. Came up in sports, soccer, played, and wrestling. So wrestling is how I got a lot of my hustle and my hard work ethics from. I credit all that to just wrestling since the age of 8 into Division I wrestling.
Wow.
And so, the Jewish aspect stuff came from, by the time I had gotten sober in 2004, that I was releasing music under the name Kosher Dillz, and I wanted to come out as Kosher Dillz. And I had changed it a few times. I didn't really want people to make fun of me, so it was originally Kosher Dill. Then it became KD Flow for about 5-6 years, from like circa 98, 90, like for 99 to 2004. And my earliest recordings, my vinyl, it was me rapping as KD Flow, but I released it under the name Kosher Dillz, and I was sort of just on the tip of me becoming, embracing my Jewishness. So I was incarcerated a few times. When I got sober, I must have been like about 4 months. I met Matisyahu's drummer named Jonah, and he invited me to connect with him. I connected with him. Matisyahu brought me out at BB King's in 2004. And it was the most Jews I ever saw in my life in one place on Christmas Day. And it was sort of my introduction to the Jewish world. That was the big one,
I mean, it's interesting because there are a lot of rappers who try to hide their Judaism. You clearly embrace it. You just use that word, especially by giving yourself, the moniker Kosher Dillz. What was the impetus? And is it connected to staying sober? Is it connected to the incarceration, the years in prison you spent? Tell us a little about what is inspiring your rapping today, and how that's connected with the other parts of your life.
It was interesting. Like, I never really wanted to be Jewish until I saw other people. I didn't really want to. I'm not saying want to be Jewish, but like, when you're in, I was only in jail for a few months. So I don't want to give the thing that people I spent years in prison.
Okay. I gotcha.
But mentally I spent many years in a prison.
Gotcha.
I would say when there were other people that were encouraging me to do more Jewish stuff that weren't Jewish, I seen people get out of like the pod and stuff. They were going to meetings with the pastor or something. I demanded to see something that was like Jewish. I was demanded to see a rabbi, and just only for like to spite. And then I realized that taking the name Kosher Dillz was just really owning it. I was like, I wanted to be different. And then also, you know, back then, no rapper sounded alike. It wasn't cool to be like anyone else. So everyone was finding their own identity, that their own road. Now every rapper's Lil this, Lil this. There's actually like 8,000 Lil whatever. Like if you look, it's actually proven on like Spotify. And I knew that I was like really distant from it. And I said like, oh, if this like works out, then I'll become like closer to my Jewishness. And I always had like this slight feeling about that. And I was just always really proud of, you know, being like the Israeli American kid. And like, that was just like my pride in it, you know?
Did your parents send you to like Jewish schools growing up, or you
No,
didn't have that? No.
all public schools. All public schools. And, you know, Hebrew day schools, and we just went to Israel in the summer. I had my bar mitzvah in Israel, and, you know, there wasn't a lot of Jewish kids in my public school. There was like a lot of Indians, Pakistani, Asian, Black, Puerto Rican. There was not a lot of Jews, you know, outside of Edison. So that was like a whole, for me, like the real Jewish experience was going to Israel. And then the other, but we didn't really consider it a Jewish experience. I just considered it Israeli, you know, that was my family. And then the other experience was, you know, meeting with Modest Yahoo. And I had done Birthright, you know, and that was like maybe 6 months before I got sober. It was like 2004. So you're gonna think that was like the beginning of Birthright. They were sending kids to Israel. So now I went with Modest Yahoo. Next thing you know, time passed, and then I started getting offered after I met him, and then people were contacting me. Why don't you like go to these Aish programs? I like went to Shiva. They said you could live here for free and we'll pay you. I was like, okay. You know what I mean? There's all these programs they like pay you to study and stuff, and I was like, sure, because I got sober. I couldn't get a job. I was just like, you know, I was like delivering pizza, I was doing whatever I could, you know, and just trying to do the music. And then I started referencing things that I was learning in like just earlier demos and stuff. And underground rap was really big on like, you know, on just very like Wu-Tang-esque kind of rap, swords, Torahs. I don't know, just referencing words. There was like no context to it. But for me, the always context was like rap about more Jewish stuff. Like insert Jewish things into your songs where there are no Jewish people.
That's awesome. And did you spend time studying in Aish or any of these programs?
I did Aish. I did like some stuff in Jerusalem. I did some stuff in Passaic. I was there for like a month, and I'm still friends with a lot of people from there, you know, that, you know, just went on to do a lot of bigger things. And I was always doing these programs because they were like, you know, come live in New York for a month for $100. I don't know. It was crazy.
We outreach directed. We'll do anything to get, you know, new customers, you know, like, so.
Yeah. I mean, I just figure I'm like, this is awesome. Yeah. Like I'll just come out here and then I'll just, you know, do this and meet people. And, you know, for me, cause I was in the beginning years, it's like 2006, 2007, I was like on probation, like, you know, just on MySpace. MySpace was the thing then. I was meeting Jewish people that knew me from the, you know, and then I had released a song with Modest Yahoo and this guy C. Ray's Walls on his album. And that was circa 2006. And that started getting out to the internet. And that was like my thing. And I was just sending it everywhere. Once I started getting involved with Jewish organizations, people were like, yo, you should play at these places and, you know, and rap at the Israel parade and rap here and rap there. And this started the beginning of emailing and sending everything to everybody I knew, you know?
That's awesome. Did you ever experience any anti-Semitism just being so vocally Jewish, so visibly Jewish?
Yeah, well, I think anti-Semitism, it's an interesting concept because it exists in so many different forms, right? Specifically within music. I mean, there's a lot of let's just say, you know, there's the basic stuff of like, people just don't like, first off, rap. There's just a lot of bitter people in rap music, under music. It's like no one's making it. And if you're getting it, then means that you're taking it away from me. So you're dealing with that, right? You're dealing with people that are jealous. Then, obviously, Jewish kids are able to be more scapegoat. I would say is there favoritism? Yeah. And then there was the Israel stuff where I thought, you know, like hip hop is very like rep where you are, you know. So I'm from New Jersey, I'm from Israel. Like that's just what I would rap. If I was from Mexico and from Los Angeles, I would rap about that. If I was from
Sure.
South, and that's just what I learned. So a lot of the, you know, in 2008, like a revolutionary rap was really big, like freedom rap and against the system, and you know, and that sort of started the beginning of like the Palestine-Israel stuff. So that came into play, and you know, I was always aligning myself with really credible street artists, and rapping about Jewish things and just referencing things like Jerusalem, and Ariel Sharon, and I had a song from the Delphonics, which was "I Love You." This Delphonics song, and called it "I Love Jews," and having my like vision was like getting non-Jewish people to like sing all these songs. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the whole point. And the majority of the people that were, you know, against it were just, you know, miseducated people that were super judgmental, but it was very like left wing kind of, you know, like very like, you know, revolutionary liberal stuff. And I don't even think it was called that then. It was just what it was. It just in the hip hop world. And I experienced it for sure. And as it morphed throughout different time, even I would say that within the Jewish people in themselves, definitely like were always telling me to change my name because it's too Jewish. And as a Jewish person, so like the insecurity of their own Jewishness was being bestowed upon to me. And I had these conversations over a year, and that infuriated me.
I'm sure.
Well, it's because the perspective of the other people were like, well, Jews in the entertainment business, so you're favored. And then you're like, and then you go and meet these people and they're like, no. And I mean, I'm talking like Paul Rosenberg for Eminem's thing. I'm talking like, I remember people be like, yo, you'll love this guy. He's Jewish. And I'll be like, no, you know, and like right in front of my eyes, I'm like, yo, it's Paul Rosenberg, Eminem's manager. And this is your, you know, Black Twins act that you signed, and they love me. And I mean, I had merch with like New Jersey flags and Israeli flags meshed together. I mean, I'm doing it so long. I was just creating this stuff for a long
time. I mean, I've always thought, it just seems to me as an outsider, just watching this stuff, that rap could be such a bridge, that it could be such a bridge even to the left or to the right.
It is, but you know, people, the thing is with anti-Semitism, it's a very interesting concept. It's not as just open out as like racism or anti-Muslim. It's like, it comes, a lot of people, you know, it's the hatred that people are least likely to call out. And it's also like, there's always a Jewish person that's in entertainment that is like just not so Jewish, and is the one Jewish guy that's like not really, you know, they see someone else with like a lot like this. I'm like a Jewish, like it's the shtick. Like the people that really love me aren't Jewish, that like really like me, and that makes other Jewish people like me more.
That's interesting.
Well, the thing is, it's like,
I mean, it's sad. It's kind of sad if you think about it, that we can't just, you know, fall in love with our own. We have to kind of like get excited about someone because our non-Jewish friends are excited
Modest
about them.
Yahoo was massive. Because the Jewish people celebrated him and pushed him, but he became it was really big when the pop culture accepted him.
Right.
And then everyone else was like, whoa, everyone loves this Jewish guy. And now it's even cooler. You know what I mean?
You know, I have this, you know, Rami, I have this in my own work, that I can't really, as a rabbi, come out and say certain things, but if I bring someone else out of the faith who's not Jewish, all of a sudden I can popularize that concept, because it's not coming from a rabbi. It's not coming from someone they expect it to come from.
Yeah, it's the concept of the cosine, right? It's called the cosine. Like if Kanye West comes out and says Kosher Dillz is the most genius artist of all time, every Jewish person that never talked to me is all of a sudden going to come out, and all of a sudden, oh, you know what I mean? You're like, I told you so. And that's what's happening now with the Moses character, like that I just did in the street. Yeah. I found some new thing because, you know, it's interesting. It's like, no one would want me to be completely successful, but if I dressed up as a character, you know, it's a concept of superhero, right? You know, there's some actors that are superheroes, like Dave Bautista was in Guardians of the Galaxy, And you know, I'm sure he wants to be known for his monologue of, you know, romance and stuff. But for now, he's going to be the WWE champ, and he's going to be a superhero, part of this, you know, DC Comics, and that's because people are a fan of the comic.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's how you're going to become famous, and then hopefully bring them over. And what happened recently was that, you know, I started dressing up in suits, green tuxedos, blue tuxedos, red tuxedos. And I drew up a bunny rabbi. I have, oh, even my but on Easter, I had a bunny rabbi. It was yarmulke on.
Okay.
I mean, literally
Yes.
paparazzi, yeah, Gothamist. I mean, all these places covering it. And then the Moses thing, everyone shared it. All the cool people shared it. You couldn't stop it. And, you know, but people like Moses, though, he's an interesting guy because, you know, he's related to everybody. And everyone wants to see Moses rap, you know? Who doesn't want to see Moses rap in the street?
Totally. I love it. I've seen you also perform a lot of African American rappers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, clearly there's work to be done in this country regarding racism. What advice would you give to Jews who want to make a difference, who want to be part of the solution? Music, have you found your rapping, your music a bridge? Because there have been divisions in the Black community and the Jewish community over the years, clearly.
Yeah. Well, you know, one, I think, you know, the concept of, I think it's interesting when you chat specifically in New York about Black Jewish division, because a lot of it's based on like divisionism from Farrakhan, who's written false works on the history of Black and Jews, right? I think we use our strengths to help other people, right? Or just, you know, for myself, I can speak for myself. Like if I see a Black business or Black artist that I work with, I want to support and buy their merchandise. And just like Jewish people, like I have the experience, and I'm sure you have the experience too. And it says, I want to support you just because you're Jewish. Now I want you to support me because you like,
because I'm good, because you like my work,
exactly.
right?
Right. Just the reason other people do it. And I say, you know, what do you like? You know, and the only people that have that experience are Jews. It really doesn't exist in any other market where everyone's like, you know, it's a new concept to Black businesses, Black owned, support by Black banking, you know, Killer Mike has something with that. And like, who's an amazing artist that I think, you know, is really people should check out. But like, that's the biggest thing. And I talked to my best friend, like, and he was just like, yo, he's like, that's huge. Like, hey, like Jewish people are here. We support you. Like, you know, just like when BDS comes in, we start going to Israeli supermarkets and we're like, yeah, we're buying stuff. You know,
it's funny, if you don't mind me jumping in. I struggle with that because on one hand, I love that. I love when Jews buy, you know, oh, you know, it's from Israel, let me buy it, you know, and if we can, and if that happens in the Black community or Jews do that, great. On the other hand, some people find it patronizing. They're like, I should only like them because of the color of their skin. Shouldn't I be attracted to the music if I like the music? Shouldn't I use him as a lawyer if he's a good lawyer? I'll use him as a doctor if he's good. And by just supporting a Black person because he's Black, it's saying it's saying that what's attracting is the color, not the quality. And that's exactly what the civil rights movement was fighting against. I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate because I struggle with this. But.
Right. No, well, I mean, I think it's the context, right? It's like, how could you, like, we create opportunities for each other. Like, there was an event I did in the summer. You know, I'm part of something called ROI with the Schusterman Initiative as part of this thing. And, you know, they help fund like ideas. It's like this, you know, philanthropist organization out of Oklahoma and Jerusalem. And, you know, after George Floyd was killed, there was something we did. I have an event at South by Southwest, a music festival called Oy Vey. It was featured in Variety magazine as one of the top showcases. I've been doing it for years. The same concept I do is bringing Israeli artists, Black artists, indie artists, every artist together. We did Solvay, basically same concept. I hired all my artists, all my friends that I perform with all the time are Black. And I'm like, listen, guys, I got a grant. This is what we need to do. This is what people want. People want unity by any means necessary. I think a rabbi told me this, if I'm not mistaken. They first wished for your financial success so you could have emotional relief and then spiritual like fulfillment, because like the physical is taken care of.
Sure.
Could, you know what I'm saying? And if someone's stressing about money, they don't care. Like Jews will, I'm just saying, this is in my experience, is that people will first, when Jews and money, it's like our most common trope, right? That people
Yeah.
think that we have all the money. So it's just like, it just kills all that noise that they think we're conspiring together. And when I say they, I mean people that just point a finger. It could be any color on literally someone having a bad day and it'd be okay. For me, as I talk to my friend, it's just one thing. It's just a small thing that we could do. And if you see somebody on the street that's asking for money, that you don't write them off, especially if other people are watching and it's a black person and it's a Jewish guy that's visibly Jewish and there's people filming on the trains or whatever, you're always giving one is just always being kind. And I think being kind and being outright and creating opportunities for that, I think that's just my experience. It's like, because no one's creating opportunities within their own communities, but the Jewish people, we've had a structure that has been coming from at least one generation deep, right? Like my parents had nothing, but now I have, and then my kids, future.
No, I think that's a very positive, empowering message. What went through your mind? I want to go back a little, if you don't mind, when you were in jail, and how were you able to beat drug addiction when so many people are unable to? You said you were sober, I think for like 16 years or now.
Yeah.
Maybe if you can speak to that a little, that could be helpful for a lot of our listeners.
Yeah. So, I mean, first off, thank you for asking me about this, because it's sometimes people think of me as just like this rap art, I might rap about things that are like not deep, but like my life is kind of deep, and I use lighthearted things to think about to get through my dark stuff. The concept of me, like a week before I got arrested, this is in 2004. I thought to myself, I was up for like 2 days with my friend we were high. And I was like, all right, I need to either get arrested or I need to go back to like meetings or get arrested. And meetings, I mean 12-step meetings. And I got set up in like this operation where, police chased me and I was on campus and stuff. It was a whole big thing. I was running from the police. I got tackled. And I still had like a large amount of drugs in me, and I was in handcuffs, and they didn't search me because I had thrown other bags, so they went one way. And I managed to get it out of my pocket. I'm not going to say what it was specifically, but like whatever it was, I was already did time. I just came from the probation office, so I was serving out on a 4-year sentence on probation, so I'm going to go away for at least another 2 years. And whatever I was set up, and I was on the campus, which makes it like it could be a second degree.
Oh boy!
So the fact that I got it out of my pocket, it had dropped in front of a bunch of people, and it never came up on my discovery on the charges that I was charged against. To have like 6, I thought that was like a sign from God, and I literally I have no concept of God or whatever, and I thought, okay, like this is it. That was my answer. And then that was it. And then I obviously go to 12-step meetings, and I'm part of like
a sign from God that He was giving you
giving me an extra chance. Yeah.
A chance that you wouldn't spend as much time in jail as otherwise.
Yeah. And then, 7 months later, I was like in inpatients in jail and 3-quarter houses and a halfway workhouse. Like I went through all the system on my own finance, right? Because back then rehab was way cheaper than it is now. It's like $10,000 a month. Now it's like $30,000. And I felt like that was it, and I was completely ready to stop. And that was
And what got you to that place? Because it sounded like you really wanted to make a change in your life. Was there something that inspired you? Or you were just like sick of the alternative?
Yeah, the alternative is that like when the people won't change, and I'll say for me, I wouldn't change until the pain is great enough. So for instance, if you try to go on a diet and you keep eating, you're gaining weight, and and you're just like, what, I need help. I need something to step in. It's like, now there's a trainer. Now you don't even touch food. And I don't even get, and what I'm saying? So it's the same concept. It was like, I can't do this by myself. I give people a lot of credit trying to do it by themselves, or not by themselves, but not even being locked away and that's the only way I could do it. Back then, no phone, no nothing, so there's no contact with the outside world. And I think for many people, it's really difficult because they say there's like jails, institutions, and death. So I had jails, institutions, and the next thing is going to be death. So if I had a heart attack, something I felt was going to die, I had many nights like that. So I felt
Wow. Wow. And your parents, they've been supportive, your rapping?
I mean, I've been full-time rap since like 2010, 2011. I moved to LA. I mean, I haven't had, I mean, I would say that was 100% full-time. And then I had some big hits along the way that really helped me financially just set the tone of like kind of understanding how much money I would make per year. Give or take, I might make more, make less. And yeah, it's just kind of been my job, you know? I don't know.
Parents like that, little stability, doesn't hurt anyone.
Well, yeah, and then the next thing you know, they're like now it's me doing stuff outside of rap is more my own interests of like, you know, investments and stuff like you have this money that you make from your job, and then you, whatever job this is, and you just put it in other things, try some new stuff, you know?
Sure. I have one last question, and I think you're supposed to then turn the tables on me here. But you recently brought some Holocaust survivors to speak on Clubhouse. Tell us, which I thought was incredible. Tell us why that was important to you.
Yeah, I would say that I went to the concentration camps in maybe 2015 with my mom and my great aunt, her mother's sister, and we went to Poland. We played, you know, and I was inspired to write this song there called So Many People, and then I shot a music video there, and then I did the TED Talk that we did. I did it in Krakow, and
wow,
I rode a bike called Ride for the Living from the JCC, like with JCC Krakow. Shout out Jonathan Ornstein, who's a New Yorker who runs it over there, and we rode our bikes from Auschwitz to Krakow. I've since then like so really obsessed with Holocaust culture, Holocaust survivors, meeting survivors, speaking with survivors. So we brought this guy Sammy Steigman on, and we had, you know, his first time up to 1,200 people in the room. The owners of Clubhouse. We had 3,700 people the next time.
Wow.
Up to 15,000, maybe 20,000. And we had a big article in NBC News. Me and Adam Swig from Value Culture did it in conjunction. It's a nonprofit in the Bay, and we were just like, we need to do this because this app is filled with how to make, you know, money, how to get a record deal, how to invest in crypto, how to sell an NFT. It's just like, you know, shoot your shot, single edition, whatever, you know, whatever. Right. So we're like, we need something different, you know. Right. Everyone stop what they're doing, and we're gonna bring some, you know, real stuff here. And people don't have the experience. Like people have never. We're Jewish, so we've met many Holocaust survivors, or at least a few, and many people have never had that opportunity. And we have a diverse group that we had Lupe Fiasco in there. We had Fab Five. We have, you know, celebrity rappers that were coming to meet Holocaust survivors and just chat with them. And I think that's a really beautiful thing.
It's really beautiful. It's so important now. Also, I think the average age. I just had the honor of interviewing 91-year-old Holocaust. The average age is like 87, 88 now. So we got to get it in. Got to hear as much as we possibly can while we still have them. You know, that's incredible. By the way, before you ask any questions, if you are interested in just rapping out, doing anything, this is a totally open conversation. If you just feel like it, I love your stuff, and show, you know, whatever. No pressure. You know.
Yeah, let me do one real quick. Let me think. All right, ready? All right, wait. What should I rap about?
Oh wow, I can really.
Make a suggestion.
How about Israel? We just celebrated Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Okay, right. Yeah, okay. I rock off my dome and I feel all my hope for the 73 years of Yom Ha'atzmaut, and my freestyle style is never taking a pile of heavy weight lifting with Rabbi Mark Wild. And you know I'm on the Upper West Side, and the plan is to meet him for burgers at the New Amsterdam. Nice on the block when it's nice on Shabbat, kind of hot if the blue and white flag gon' pop. Some say it's on the top of zones. Before that day we had Yom HaZikaron, And Yom HaShoah, that's a nice for the Shoah. Other people now, you know, they have to show up for our French girl over by the embassy today. They remember me. It's all heresy because they never treat Jews the way that we need to. And people say, is that the truth? I don't believe you, but it really is. Trying to mind on my biz, elevate all the kids on the set straight. This cool. What the deep box nice on the rip. Shout out to the rabbi. He's going to kill it. Hey.
That's awesome.
Hey,
Did you just come up with it? You literally just came up with that right now.
Yeah.
What is, can I just, I'm so curious because it's like,
it's just another language. It's just another language, just like any other language that you practice speaking and you're fluent in on some level, you know.
because, the new, I'm just, you got the new Amsterdam burger and just a couple of things that literally just, you didn't know about 10 minutes ago. So that's just impressive. That's really.
I met somebody the other day who, man, he was like, he's like studying engineering robotics, and another guy was a tattoo artist, and another girl who she designs bags for like Alexander Wang, and like crazy, like just crazy. Like she showed the handbag, and they're like, no, but you're talented. And I'm like, no. You can do tattoos. Like you just tattoo, but it's like, it's just tattoos. And the other person's like, yeah, it's just a bag, you know? And so everyone has their language that they speak.
Everyone has their language. I mean, I think it's a God gift. It very hard for me to, I have certain fans, certain musical fans, and I'm just convinced that they're gifts. They're gifts from on high. I mean, you can cultivate it, you can develop it. I have a son who's a musician, but I watched him develop very naturally. Yeah, he took some lessons here and there, but it was very much organically developed from some other place. I'm really convinced of it.
Man. Yeah, I mean, listen, I think it's an interesting time to showcase our, for instance, I think, and I was just looking through the questions, a lot of, I guess you're speaking, I saw some of them were like about dating, or people are like, is that what you do for a job? And people, it's very interesting because people don't know. I'm like the only one who does what I do. So this is, it's interesting to other people. I mean, but what you do is very interesting to me. It's like, how do rabbis do rabbi stuff, and consistently, rabbinicaling all that, you know what I mean? You're like, there's marriages, there's all kind of stuff you guys do. And I'm like, how does he do that? You have to study your whole life for it. I've been also doing it my whole life, since for over 20 years. So so I get to ask you some questions now.
Let's go.
What is the hardest thing that you have seen as a rabbi? Like, how long have you been doing it for, by the way?
That's a great question. MGE 22 years, and I was practicing for about 4 or 5 years beforehand. So It's been a while. It's been over 25 years.
What's the hardest thing you've seen as, rabbi? Like, what's one of the hardest calls that you get?
Illness, suffering, death. It's just, my mother passed 25 years ago, and I know I'm supposed to separate and I'm supposed to be professional, but I go right back there, and that's hard. And I'm good at it in a sense because I can really feel for people. And I think rabbis who have been blessed not to go through that kind of pain themselves, won't be able to be as empathetic. So on one hand, I feel like I'm better at it. Like I can feel other people's pain, and they can see that, and they can feel that comfort from me. But it takes a big toll on me. It takes a toll on me, and it's hard. I have a very hard time. I really feel for other people, and I have a very hard time making, that separation that a good therapist or a good rabbi is supposed to make to maintain their own sanity. I'm not so good at that. So
for instance, just to jump in, you could get a call about somebody's mother who passed away suddenly at the age of 65, maybe young, right? And is the first thing that you think of, you like think back to your mother, and you're like, I didn't wake up, I didn't want to deal with this today, but you have to.
Yeah. I think back to her. I think I try to keep it positive and try to think back at the things that help me get through, help me keep my faith, help me somehow grow. I'm a big believer, just philosophically, spiritually, that these things happen to enable us to grow. Now, if somebody had said to me at the time, Mark, your mother has cancer and she's going through this terrible suffering, so you could grow or she could grow, I would have smacked them across the face. I would have been so I would never say that to the person, but I believe that's why it is happening. So the question is, how do you help that person? First of all, just maintain sanity. That's A. B, somehow learn and grow from the situation. Because I'm a big believer, there's a lot of Jewish teachings that attest, by the way, in Hebrew is nisayon. You know this from the Hebrew word nes, which is a miracle, because a miracle basically is something that you never thought was possible. And challenges and unfortunate situations in life enable us to grow in a way that we never thought would be possible. But you can't really tell that to the person while they're going through the suffering. You just need to just hold their hand and listen, to be a good listener. But a good rabbi will be able to somehow help the person not only get through it, but somehow become better because of it.
Do you feel here? I saw some questions about dating and stuff, and I'm sure like this is like I feel like this is the thing, because I'm 39 and I just got back into dating. I was like off all the apps and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you sometimes like? Do you feel like people are like always pushing to make a match? And then you're like, well, what happens if it's bad? Like, you know what I mean? You're like, look, and everyone's like, oh, we got to get him married. Or someone comes like, oh, you got to get this guy married. And you're looking at him like, yo, this guy's a mess. He needs to go get help. He doesn't get married, you know?
Yeah. So it's like, rabbis are notorious for this. It's a great question. We see a guy like you, a nice looking guy, 39 years old. Oh my God, there's so many great women out for you. Let's just get this guy married. But let's say you're going through something. It's a great question. And you need to really deal with your inner demons. But there's an expression, ein ledavar sof. There's no end to that. No one is ever fully developed. So at what point do you say you're developed enough to share your life with another person? Yeah. Or are you too much of a mess that you're just going to bring someone else so down? Yeah. So you got to have to be able to tell. So I think rabbis maybe sometimes lean a little too more on the, just get married, everything will work out. And I will tell you that's foolish, okay? Because life is not that simple, and you do have to have some of your stuff worked out. But I feel a lot of people do go to the other extreme too much. Rabbi, I'm not making enough money. When I get solidified in my job, then I'll start dating seriously. And I respect that. I get that. I was raised also in that kind of family to be a good provider. But a lot of people who come to MGE, a lot of guys, I've said, you know what? You've been struggling at your livelihood for years. Maybe it's because you're going at it alone. Maybe if you had someone you loved and who loved you and who was supporting you unconditionally, you'd be more successful in the financial world or in music, whatever it is you're doing professionally. So it's a little of a catch-22. So I do encourage people, even if they don't feel financially ready, because what keeps some people from being financially successful is having a partner. And I think it's okay to look for someone as a support.
Right. What do you think? I'm sure you're watching, like I'm sure you seem to be up to date on pop culture, like shows like Unorthodox and Shtisel.
Mm-hmm.
I think that portrays Orthodox Jewry in comparison, because obviously, like, let's say, people walk down the street, they wouldn't be able to, I mean, obviously, because you don't have a full beard and payas, they might not be able to, but I'm sure you think like, oh, this is right, this is wrong. I mean, how do you feel about the way stuff is certainly portrayed in the Orthodox?
So I happen to, there's good and bad. I happen to really love Shtisel, and I'll tell you why. I was watching with my wife the other night, and it's like, it's a Jewish soap opera for Haredim, that's really what it is. But there's so much truth to that, because just because somebody is Orthodox or super ultra Orthodox, of course there are dramatic differences and changes in their life, but they also have breakups, they also have deaths, people also get cancer, and that's the real stuff everybody is dealing with. And I love that, because I feel that people who are watching it will get two things. They'll get, number one, they'll feel that sense of like, yeah, I have that too. And now I get to see how an ultra-Orthodox Jew reacts to that situation. Maybe they like it, maybe they don't, but it humanizes. And it makes us, understand and appreciate each other. I haven't really seen, admittedly, Unorthodox. I've heard that it gives a little of a harsher portrayal of the Orthodox. I haven't seen it, so I don't want to make too many comments about it. But I just think that portraying others as accurately as possible is just living regular lives without an axe to grind. And I was nervous because the actors in Shtisel are not observant Jews, and there's a lot of anti-Orthodox sentiment in Israel, particularly coming from the left. But I'm actually extremely impressed with the portrayal. And I had the opportunity of actually marrying one of the actors in Shtisel, the young woman who marries Kivi. They broke up. She cried. I don't know if you remember that episode. She cried a lot, and he just said, "Fine, I'll marry you." A very beautiful young woman. She needed a rabbi in New York City with her Israeli boyfriend to do the wedding, and I was there. So
Amazing.
she's a lovely, lovely young woman, very much removed from Judaism. And I find it so fascinating. She did such a good job portraying somebody so religious, even though
Shtisel.
yeah.
Shtisel. Well, the one thing I think that's great about that is that there you have, Israel, like Shtisel is the Orthodox speaking, Hebrew. And,
A lot of Yiddish thrown in, and
but I think that obviously like made it really awesome. I mean, I'm on the third season now, and I love it, and I love speaking Hebrew. I was living in Israel last year, and during the pandemic, I came back, and man, I don't know, I really love the show, love Share House, but okay, but besides film, okay, so here's another question I have. What is the most common question that you get in regards to like intermarriages? I'm a Cohen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I've dealt a lot with like, and I'm not even Shomer Shabbat, but I'm pretty Jewish. I mean, people say, I have all the people, like I said, that know me as Kosher Dillz would be like, oh, that's Kosher Dillz. He's like really Jewish. I just shot a music video the other day. I was outside Gottlieb's in Williamsburg in like a red tuxedo. Like, you guys will know it's like a really, really Orthodox hangout diner. I mean, with all Satmars, Yiddish, everything. But I mean, this is a question, and it's something I always dealt with because I was dating people that were like not, father's Jewish, one's Jewish, not. It's just, who's this? Virgins, Cohens, conversions. This is all coming up. I know you get all the questions.
No, this is a big one. This is a really big, important question. It's a big question. I actually just taught a class last night. I'm doing a class on the Jewish life cycle. So we talked about conversions. And I said there's a lot of misperception. People think that Judaism doesn't want conversions because what happens when you start dating someone who's not Jewish and then they want to convert? So people are skeptical. And I understand that. But we actually do want people. It's considered one of the 613 mitzvot to convert somebody to Judaism. It's considered a mitzvah, actually. The only reason why people think we don't want converts is because we want sincere, genuine converts. Now, that doesn't mean just because somebody's coming into it for marriage purposes that you can't end up with someone who is going to be sincere and genuine. I've been doing this for 25 years, some of the most extraordinary Jews that I've ever met are converts to Judaism, people I've helped walk through this whole process, who came into this situation because they were in love with a Jewish guy or gal. But they were able to find beauty in Judaism for themselves. And I always say to the person, I literally just said it to somebody this past weekend, showed up at MJE, wants to convert, and I know who she's dating. And I said, listen, happy to help you. You better make sure you're doing this for you. This is not like rolling the toothpaste tube versus squeezing it, where like you can kind of compromise. The guy likes to roll it, the girl likes to squeeze it, figure out a way to. This is a little more serious than that. This is about keeping Shabbat. This is about keeping kosher. This is how you're going to raise your kids. You're going to spend $25,000 a year on day school tuition every year for each kid.
I don't know if I am, but
I encourage it.
Yeah, I know because it's interesting because I'm pretty Jewish, but I went to public school, but
right.
I would have been different if I went to Jewish school.
Totally, you would have. But listen, never too late. Rabbi Akiva was 40. You already got a year on Rabbi Akiva, my friend.
Yeah, and I got all the hookups. People want me to come.
Oh my God, yeah, you're hanging out at Gottlieb's. You got a lot. Yeah. But to answer your question, like we want Jewish continuity. We want Jews to marry Jews so that we can pass this thing on. It doesn't really work if you're marrying someone outside of the faith. I'm just saying all the studies and all the statistics are pretty clear. If you marry someone of the same faith, the likelihood of your kids carrying this on is like 20 times. And if you don't, but again, conversion is a route as long as it's taken seriously.
Cool. Now, I'm sure, tell us about your dealings with Cohens.
By the way, can I ask you a question? What are you looking for?
Me?
Yeah. What are you in a woman? What's
mother's Jewish, right? That's my basics. I don't want any like alcoholics or addicts. Obviously, it's really
sure.
And someone who works hard and obviously like is the my number one fan. For everything outside of music.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You know what they say.
And I like people that speak other languages too, because I grew up with Hebrew. I speak Hebrew, Spanish, English.
Cool.
So I'm looking, and I'm dating. I just started dating again. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think I've ever properly dated, because as a musician, you're like traveling, you just meet people, hang out, and then you're like, I was on the road. So the pandemic has put me in one place. So that's it. It's really interesting. But I recently met I'm meeting all kinds of people, but I'm meeting people, and it's my first time I'm like authentically dating, and I'm
great.
An orthodox approach where I'm almost like not doing anything more except seeing people, really.
That's great. That's great. If I could be of any help, I'm here. MGE boasts 323 couples. Not that who have met and married through MG. Not that we're counting.
Well,
323.
Well, it's just I'm trying to be open, and I realize that and I'm sure many people are like this. Depending on their actions. I thought to myself, wow, if I don't do work on myself, and I've been like, so I do a lot of work on myself, and I've been therapy, et cetera. And I'm like, I consider myself a pretty deep being from what I've been through to where I am now. But I could see like, I was like, wow, I could have been together with someone at 29 or 30s and 39. And I'm like, I don't want to be single at 49. I want to have kids, within very few years. So, because I need a couple little kosher dills, selling stuff.
Yeah. Love it.
What do you feel is the thing when you deal with people that are in their late 30s, 40s that are single? Is that an issue for you? And I know you're like, man, we got When is it like you're like, listen, dude, marry anybody? Come on.
I never.
Like, Rabbi, come on, give me anything. I'm dying out here.
A pulse, and a Jewish mother and a pulse. I mean, look, you can't ever tell anyone, no matter what the age, marry anyone. I will say that it gets very challenging, and it is one of the more painful aspects of my work. I have a lot of very close friends who are single in their 30s, 40s. And I always tell them the same thing. It is never too late. Do you know that the Baba Sali, this is going to sound ridiculous, one of the great Kabbalists of our generation, his wife passed away. He was like in his late 80s. He remarried. And he quoted the verse from the Torah that lo tov heyot adam levado. It's not good for man to be alone. It's not just talking about someone in their 20s or 30s. It's talking about, it's a categorical existential statement about human existence. We were not meant to be. Aristotle, from the great Greek philosophers, we are social animals. It's not healthy. COVID has demonstrated this. It's not good to be alone. And now there is something worse than being alone. And a lot of people have learned this the hard way, and that is being in the wrong relationship, which is why the Torah does permit a get. The Torah does permit a divorce. So what I tell people is, as we're getting older, the list gets longer. We become more understanding of the complexity of who we are, and sometimes it becomes more challenging to reduce the lists down to the basics. So I'll tell you 3 things. I heard this in the name of Rav Shechter, one of the great rabbis at Yeshiva University. 3 things. Midot, good personality traits, specifically kindness, kind and open heart. Number 1. That's number 1.
It makes my heart warm.
Oh, number 1. So I can't. Number 2 is physical attraction. You need physical, but within reason, and I think the media has done a number on us because, physical attraction is a very tricky thing. And that just because we say you should be physically attracted doesn't mean the other individual has to be perfect. And that people fight and struggle with that a lot. The third thing is shared values. And again, shared values doesn't have to be exactly. My wife and I have shared values, but we disagree on certain things, and our kids know it, and that's okay. You negotiate, but basic values. We want to make a Jewish home. We want to, I don't love that Republicans and Democrats are not dating each other, liberals, conservatives. I think it's nonsense. I think people should be getting together. But if you're so on the left or you're so on the right, it's going to be hard to get it to that, to cover that kind of gap. So those are three good personality traits, specifically kindness, physical attraction, and shared values. And shared values is where the Judaism and all that stuff comes in, I think.
That's cool. It's good to know. What do you think is like? Well, I guess that was such a big thing. And what's the main point of? I know you guys have got boasted so many couples, but when you started MJE, right? Like you're like, all right, this is what I want this thing to do. Did you feel like you were like a renegade rabbi and you're like, no one's gonna hire me at the congregation? I'm my own thing. I'm independent. I don't need a record deal.
I don't need a publisher. I'll write my own book.
Yeah.
I understand. So I actually came the other way. First of all, I was a lawyer for a little while. I practiced as an attorney. And when I came into the rabbinate, I was working for synagogues. The problem I had was I don't think I was servicing the right population. I didn't like preaching in front of the choir. And the synagogues that I was working at were all preaching in front of the choir. I was like, 80% of our brothers and sisters are either unaffiliated or they've got some hang up about Judaism. And you know what? They're not in this room. They don't belong to the synagogue. And I worked for some great rabbis. I worked in Queens, where I'm from, in Forest Hills for a couple of years. I worked on the Upper East Side at a synagogue, and I worked on the West Side of a synagogue. But again, the people I wanted to talk to were not in the room. I wanted to talk to people that didn't care. So in order to do that, I would either have to work for some other outreach organization, and I didn't love what was out there at the time. So I started my own, and it gave me a little angst because I'm not a huge confident kind of guy, and I was 29, 30 years old at the time. And I just said, you know what, I'm going to give it a year. And if I can't pull out of the woodwork some of the young Jews living in Manhattan who the other places weren't getting, then I'll fold up. And I got some money. I was able to raise a few dollars, and it just took off. And we started getting a lot of people, thankfully, 20s, 30s, mostly conservative, reform, unaffiliated, who were curious about their Judaism, but never really gave it a shot. And their exposures were just I always felt bad, and I still do, I grew up in a very robust Jewish community with a lot of teachers and learning and vibrancy and music. And it was just a big part of my childhood. I loved it. And most Jews don't grow up like that. Most Jews go synagogue once or twice a year, and it's lame. And the rabbis never really answered their questions.
I want to let you know, I never go to synagogue. I only come for Shabbat dinners, but I rather go to 40 Shabbat dinners than
Well, you got it, dude. You got to check it out. You got to,
Well, no, I go to shul. So I'm saying sometimes, but to me, that is shul. It's like going to be with Jews, and
right. That's part of it. And by the way, and that's why COVID has been so rough, because COVID basically knocked that whole aspect of it out.
Yeah,
and basically just knocked it down to the actual prayers, which are important, of course, but it's not the whole experience.
Right. Last thing I wanted to ask you was, we talked about how Jews could help elevate Black communities, especially just like that. We're just trying to, we're coming up on the 30th anniversary of Crown Heights riots, which, definitely is still relevant into the streets of people that are still living in Crown Heights, and just because there's people from outside New York watching that also feel this, and we had, Muncie, and we had Jersey City, last year, those attacks. How do we destroy the racism and bigotry within our own community, of the Jewish community, whether this is with Black people, Asian people, Indian people, Sephardic Jews, Mizrahi, what I'm saying, Ashkenazi Jews, and into that. What do you think, like, how do you address that within your own organization? What programs are you doing that are like lifting that up? Because I think that's really appealing.
It's a really good question. And admittedly, I will say we're not doing all that much. We're not. I think we need to have more conversations. I had like 2 panels on my podcast. I got to actually interview Eric Adams, who's running for mayor now, who I really respect. I'm not saying MJ doesn't do politics. I try to stay away from it, but I really like him because when we had that conversation, he said to me that he had PTSD when he saw police officers as a kid. But he said I could be another angry young black man, or I could get in the system and try to change it from within. And he became a cop, and he was a police officer for over 20 years. So I think hearing people like that, we in the Jewish community, especially in the Orthodox community, we don't have enough interactions with people of other races and colors, and we just don't. We don't come into contact enough. You send your kids to day school, they're surrounded by other Jewish kids, even in New York City. So I think the more experiences we have where we just get to talk and hang out with people that are not like ourselves. By the way, that's not to say you shouldn't send your kids to day school. 100%. I'm going to say it again. I said it to you before, Rami. Send your kids to day schools, but do what I try doing, which is getting your kids to be friends with African Americans in the neighborhood, with Latinos in the neighborhood. My kids, my oldest son, who I mentioned is a musician, he joined this incredible gym in the South Bronx. He was one of the only white kids on the court, and that was one of the most important experiences he had in his life. He was there for years because he was crazy about basketball, and he was a very good baller. And that was just, he learned much more than he'll ever learn listening to a podcast because he met people. So I think the more we get out there and the more we meet. So I would like to do, if you have any suggestions, by the way.
I think you should do, when you get a chance to do, mix Shabbats. I even had one at my place with just a few people that had saw the blackface incidents in Williamsburg on Purim. I don't know if you heard about that. It was all over media and social media.
Yeah.
And we're like, let's start fostering these conversations. So I had Motel, Rabbi Mordechai Lightstone on a live stream with some, and this is like, I'm in the street with people, that are at Black Lives Matter protests and all protests. Speaking of, I'm actually about to go to the protest at the French embassy right now. For the woman that was, that got no justice in France for being killed. And, and I want to show that to the world too, but I think at least at your place, I think it's cool enough where I can help. I'll help bring people.
You know what? If I'm not so. I have to tell you, I'm not so plugged in. I'm not nearly as plugged in as I should be. So if you can introduce me, and you think somebody would be a good guest on this podcast, or they can come and speak at MG. We're starting to do more in person.
Yeah, things, I'd love to come too. As you know, I'm a fan. I want to come and speak and tell my story in person when that opportunity arises during this pandemic.
And before you go, tell us a little, just because not everyone knows. I know you're upset about the French High Court's recent choice in relation to the killer. What was her name? Sarah Halimi?
Halimi, yep, Sarah Halimi.
I mean, this is a travesty of justice. So you're going to a protest now?
Yeah, it's at the French embassy, I think on Fifth Ave, by like 70th and something. I mean, I go to protests that I believe in, so I've been to Black Lives Matter protests, Stop Asian Hate. Of course, I'm going to the Jewish one. I'm, you know what I'm saying? That's just something I have to show up for. And because there's a lot of people that don't know about it, because people that aren't Jewish, I mean, this is a thing that's a consistent thing within more central and left world, Zionism, is that like, we are not included in other people's activism. This is a big thing. A lot of Jewish people I know, I don't want to go to Black Lives Matter protest because of their stance on Israel, which not even people there would know. It's only something as Jews, it's something that we always first look at, right?
Right.
And I was there when it started in LA, and the first thing I was looking for was where are the F Israel graffiti, right? So I'm here, like when I recently went to the mixed BLM Stop Asian Hate rally. I'm waiting for them to talk about, the killings in Pittsburgh. It was silent, so I like to go to all of them, and I also want to be a bridge, because I am a bridge.
Music. You have a tremendous you have a tremendous opportunity with the work with the kind of music you're rapping, and your personality also. Got to know you this last hour much better. You really should. It's a gift, and you should use it to bring people together, because we need it.
That's it. That's 100% facts. That's what I'm going to do. That's what I keep doing.
That's great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Robbie.
Thank you so much for coming on. I hope you'll come. If you can make it Friday night, we'll get a little rap from you.
I would love it. I would love it.
All All right, so guys, if you want to come Friday night,
Right.
New Amsterdam Burger, we'll be in touch.
We'll be in touch. And if anyone wants to check it out, Kosher Dillz, obviously, I think this pops up.
Oh, yeah.
Things
Kosher Dillz. Also, check out his website, kosherdillzworld.com,
Yeah.
and his album, Nobody Cares Except You. And you can also follow Rami on Twitter at Kosher Dillz, which is
Kosher Dillz. Yeah. It's, I guess it's a pop. It's KOSHADILZ. It's on everything: Instagram, TikTok.
two L's.
That's right.
Awesome, man.
All right,
That's a
Rabbi.
pleasure.
Thanks for letting me kick it with you for the last time.
Thank you. Oh, that was great. Thanks so much. Thanks for asking. That was the first time we did it. It's awesome. All right, take care. Have a great day.
Are we